Well, good morning. This is Plant Smart Living with Farmer Fred. I'm really glad you could join me here this morning. It's a beautiful day here in Pennsylvania. The sun is shining. We're going to have some nice warm temperatures coming ahead of us, and so it's going to be really great for those warm weather crops. And speaking of warm weather crops or flowers, I wanted to share with you today some tips and ideas on how you can plant Titan Clear Mix Vinca flowers in your vegetable garden. And so thanks for joining me today. And so follow me along, and I'm going to show you where I'm going to be planting these Vinca flowers. So I'm going to be planting these Vinca flowers over here on the end of my outdoor garden structure there. That's like a focal point of my garden here. And so I really like having some pretty flowers here along the foreground of these boulders. And so I'm going to be planting them right along here and amongst the boulders. So before we get started planting these beautiful Vinca flowers, they always come with a little label on it, and so let's just spend a minute reading some of the information on here. And so these are Titan Clear Mix Vinca, and they like sun to part shade, and their height is about 14 to 16 inches. Titan varieties offer faster flowering and extra large colorful blooms, and they're useful for borders or beds or window boxes and containers, and they're best in fertile, well-drained soil. And so one thing I've observed over the years is that the landscapers like using these Vinca flowers. Now in the past I've only gotten the Vinca color, more of this pinkish reddish color, but this year I decided to get the mix or the blend because I think they're really going to look pretty. And so I'm going to be planting these along the stone edge here on the side of our garden structure. So I need to start raking back some of that mulch that's there before I start planting these. I'm going to grab my rake and just start pulling the mulch back. I'm going to be planting these about 6 to 10 inches back from the face of those stones or boulders. And so I'm just going to pull back some of the mulch a little bit here wherever I'm going to be planting these. So I have 4 packs of 4, and so I have 16. And so what I'm going to do is start laying these out on the ground here. I'm going to take each one out and just kind of lay them there. I want to space these about 18 inches apart because they're going to spread out pretty wide. And I'm going to probably have some left over here that I can use in another area. So I just go along and, like I said, I'm going to just lay them out here to get an idea how many I need. And I also use this little hand rake. It's nice and handy for some of those small areas, like over here. I'm going to be planting a row along the front, then I'm also going to put a few behind the front row just to give it a little bit more depth. So I had already planted a few of the Vinca flower to my right, but I'm going to use my little hand trowel here. You want to make sure your soil's nice and loose. Work through your soil with your garden fork or whatever you prefer to loosen your soil. And just firm it in nice with your hands. And then spread the mulch back around these flowers, and you know, you can water them as you go along. But I just love these flowers. They're going to really pop, and they hold up really well in the heat. We have used Vinca flowers for a long time, so I was just loosening the soil a little bit more around this plant. And then I have a few more here to do. But we just love using the boulders in the garden here. They add a nice earthy look. You know, they anchor the gardens down, give it a sense of age. Again, like I said, I was cultivating a little bit using my shovel around each plant here. And then, yeah, planting flowers, of course, is something really easy to do. And you want to make sure you keep an eye on them, make sure they stay well watered. But it's a nice morning here in Pennsylvania, Zone 6. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to plant a few more of these in the background. I have a nice thick layer of mulch here, and so, you know, it's always good to use mulch on your gardens. It helps hold the moisture in. And so I'm going to just dig through with my hand. Make sure that soil's nice and loose, and then just put this one in here. I always kind of like trying to form also like a triangle with your flowers. But things in nature are odds. You know, odd numbers, 3s, 5s, and so on. And then let me get my watering can here and finish watering these in here. We did end up getting these from Ray's Nursery. They weren't that expensive. I forget the cost of them. But I'll be taking, you know, videos of these as they progress and grow through the summer. And so let's take a look at these Vinca flowers now that they're planted in the garden here. Now right here in the ground I have elephant ear bulbs that I had overwintered down my basement, and so these will get about 5-6 feet tall, and the leaves will be at least 30 inches or more long and wide. And so I'm looking forward to these elephant ears too. They'll add a nice tropical element to my focal point here. That's also a wisteria vine that I have growing up there. So anyhow, I just want to thank you for joining me today out here in the vegetable garden. It's getting up in the 80s this week here, and you know, Memorial Weekend's coming up, and you know, it's going to be time for me to start taking these overalls off and start wearing shorts out here in the garden. So anyhow, if you have any questions or comments about this video, feel free to leave them in the comment section below. And I just want to thank you for joining me today out here in the vegetable garden. It's always fun planting flowers. I'm going to be planting them in a few other areas in our garden, and just so you have a nice pop of color in your garden. And I would encourage you to think about growing or planting flowers in your garden too. And so anyhow, I just hope you have a wonderful day. So until next time, this is Plant Smart Living with Farmer Fred.